This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
It is the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast. As you know, you'll find us wherever you find your favorite podcast, an extension of the Mark and Charity Mornings on 95.5 Hits FM. Mark Philman remains on holidays. I'm Charity Brown. It is Monday, July 25th, a great weekend. We took in some monster trucks, and actually I started the weekend by finding my wedding ring. A great story behind that. Thankfully, a great story. It wasn't going to be a great story. But we'll get more into that coming up a little later in the podcast. First, though, the really big story. So my ring story was second only to the weather story. The weather top story this morning with Mark and Charity Mornings on our newscast on inquinty.ca. Another huge storm passed through our area last night. And as a coworker mentioned, we just finished up an office meeting and they made the observation or the comment that this, you know what, this could be the norm. These storms coming through. This is the third we've had so far this summer where there's been tornado talk. There's been tornado warnings, and people are down here today doing ground and drone surveys of whether or not one actually did touch down just north of Belleville. Now, this storm, about 8:30, we started to get the tornado warnings last night. And it was more north of us. So right along Highway 7. If you get your map out, you'll see. And if you look at the Hydro One outage maps, you can see actually the line of this storm. And it was Marmora, Madoc, Tweed, up around Caladar, just a bit north of Caladar and Madoc as well, up 62. But right along the Highway 7 corridor, that seems to be where it hit the hardest. And I mentioned Hydro One because about 1,800 people woke up this morning without power. Lots of trees down, lots of lines down. Thankfully, no reports of any injuries. That's key. So thankfully, even though it was pretty scary for those in that area last night, no one was hurt. It was just the power went out. So Hydro One crews were out early this morning, last night, working hard to get everybody restored. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, this is the third storm of the summer like this. The first one being up in my neck of the woods. I live about 40 minutes north of Belleville, between 401 and Highway 7, really. And that was the first storm, I would say, of the season. Early June came through, late May, and really strong winds knocked over trees, took barns down. It was pretty strong. And then last month, in June, I would say the second one rolled through, and that one hit more Belleville. And then this third one, which again was farther north along the Highway 7 corridor, strong winds, heavy rains, and talk of tornadoes. It's becoming, I don't want to say we're Tornado Alley. I don't think we're there at all yet, because these are still fairly low grade tornadoes, if they're considered tornadoes. But definitely some weather we're not necessarily used to, new to this area. And some do speculate that this is what we're going to be experiencing now, our storms. Environment Canada did call it earlier this spring when they were making their summer forecasts, predictions. They said Ontario, Eastern Ontario especially, would have some pretty big storms this summer, and they continue. So if it's going along the way it is, I'd say another one's on the way in the next couple of weeks. So just be prepared. The one good thing was it seemed to break the humidity a bit. It's still warm, but a high of only 26 today with the humidity, which is much different than what we were experiencing last week with the record highs, not just here in this area, but also around the world. So it did break that up a little bit, which was good, but unfortunately quite a mess north of us to clean up, and especially in Marmora, because coming up later this week, I'm speaking with Tammy from the town of Marmora because they're celebrating their 200th anniversary. The town itself is celebrating this weekend, heading into the long weekend. So a bit of cleanup to be done over the next couple of days to get ready. But I'm speaking with her on Wednesday, so I'll have that for you coming up on Thursday. You can tune in for that. That, of course, coming after really a great weekend. Really. It was sunny. It was nice. Saturday, we found ourselves out at Brighton Speedway, actually. They had their monster trucks there. So I invited Nicole Klinsterber, she does all the announcing, not only news here on 95.5, but she does the announcing at Brighton Speedway. So I invited her in this morning to talk about the monster trucks and what's to come.
Charity, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Great job Saturday.
Oh, I thank you. I'm so glad that you guys came. I hope you had a blast.
So much fun. It really was. And I'm not as familiar with Brighton Speedway, of course, as you are. But now that the kids are a little older, we've gone to a few. We went to Eve of Destruction last year. And then with the monster trucks being there this weekend, we were like, of course we have to go. What a great setup and such a fun night.
It sure is. Affordable, too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where can you have more fun than Brighton Speedway? And, I'll say it. I always love saying it. It is basically, it's almost like my third home now, I'd say. And I love it so much. And the fans and you guys just make it that much better.
The atmosphere. Was this the first time they had the monster trucks? Because it was really cool.
It's usually one of the regular big nights that we have at the Speedway. Mark and Andrew Naldi just do such a phenomenal job each and every year with the program and everything that they bring. They try to go bigger and better every year. And it was nice to see the monster trucks back, of course. They wrecked everything in sight in the middle of the track.
They jumped a bus.
I know.
That was so cool.
I was like, what is this bus doing in the middle of the infield? I cannot wait to see that. Yeah,
I was a little worried about the infield. I'm not going to lie. When I saw him doing that, I was like, oh, okay. I'm sure it was fine. But
the track officials will be busy again this week putting that together for the Karts Club on Thursday.
But along with all the action, what was really cool too was how accessible it was. They were right there. Like you could go over and see the trucks and get your pictures taken as we did. Meet the drivers. Like they were excited to be back.
They're just like kids. They are. I spoke to Dale Eve and Matt Brienne before the show, and it's like, how did you get into something like this? And like, we've always loved it.
Yeah.
We've, since we were young boys, and now we just get to do this for fun, and everybody else gets to enjoy all of this fun. And it's so nice to have stuff like that back at the Speedway again.
Well, and speaking of, there's more to come.
Oh, we've got lots. We've got the Southern Ontario Sprints. They'll be here this Saturday. They're always a fan favorite. And then we've got our Brighton Speedway Wall of Fame inductions on August 13th. So that's always fun, where we get to recognize people that have contributed so much to the sport over the years. So they'll be recognized on August 13th as well. We've got Fan Appreciation Night coming up again. So that is like, Halloween in August. You get to go on the front stretch. You get to meet all your favorite drivers, autographs. They always bring treats. So that's happening on August 20th. You don't want to miss that as well. And then, of course, we'll get into the fall, where we've got our double headers with our Labor Day Classic, our Apple Fest Shootout. That's another one that's a big draw for fans. And then we will wrap it up in style, as we always do, with the Eve of Destruction.
Eve of Destruction!
Yes. Sunday.
Yes, that's always a fun night. Where can people get tickets, Nicole?
Always at brightonspeedway.ca.
So that was Saturday night, and it was a lot of fun. It really was. Looking forward to especially going back for Eve of Destruction. We might have to go back for a couple of those other events as well. So that was Saturday. I'm slowly making my way back. So we talked about the storm last night. We've talked about Saturday night. Friday kicked off the weekend in the best way. Not only was it a big day here in the Quinte area for Rotary Loves Kids, as we were talking with David Allen, their big fundraiser for the Rotary Club of Belleville. But after I left here on Friday, I went grocery shopping, and I have to go back even further. For a week prior to that, so all last week, I had been searching high and low for my wedding ring. I could not find it. I was coming to the conclusion that it was gone. I checked all the usual places. I checked all the unusual places. I had cleaned my house top to bottom. It was so clean. Surprising how once I found it, it went back to the way it usually is. But I looked here at work. My point is, I looked everywhere, and I was coming to the conclusion that it was gone. And then I went grocery shopping on Friday. I opened the hatch to my car, and there it is, just rolled out. I looked in my car last week. We had been in and out of my car several times last week. And yet there it was Friday. I don't know why Friday I found it. I don't know how it got there. There's a lot of unanswered questions around the misplacing of my wedding ring. But I found it, and I was grateful. But it did stick with me all weekend. And even this morning, I had to ask, has that ever happened to you? You have lost or misplaced. I prefer misplaced. You have misplaced something. And then days, maybe weeks, even months later, there it is. And perhaps it's right where you looked. or it's somewhere you never even thought it would or could be. And yet there it is. We put it up on our Facebook page, and thank you to everyone who shared. It made me feel better that it had happened to them too. A lot of jewelry stories. So it's not just me with misplacing my wedding ring. There were earrings on there, other rings that had been misplaced. Thankfully, everybody found them, but in very interesting ways and in interesting places where they just never thought it would be. In fact, Melita even commented a few days ago it happened. They were getting ready to head out on a road trip and her husband couldn't find his wallet. And he did. He looked in all the usual places, looked in the unusual places. And it wasn't until they came back from their trip, he went into the hall closet and there it was sitting on the shelf. Where had it been before? Because he had looked there and didn't see it. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. I call phenomenon because a week had passed and I had no idea where it was. So for me to find my wedding ring in that spot in my car, about to fall out of my car when I'm getting groceries, to me, so there, you can say what you want, but someone was helping me out. There's no question there. So I'm grateful I found it, and I'm happy for everyone who found their misplaced items as well, who were good enough to share their stories through our Facebook page. It's still up. If you have a story you'd like to share, would love to hear from you. Coming up tomorrow with Mark and Charity Mornings, just to give you a heads up, another chance to win with Midas and Galaxy of Games. We'll have that coming up at 7:15. It's a Stream Home Tuesday with Jimmy, and also looking forward to speaking with Brandy Hodge from the United Way. They've got an amazing race on this week. One of my favorite reality shows, probably the favorite. I so enjoy The Amazing Race. Well, they've incorporated some local realtors here in the area to do a Quinte Amazing Race. So we'll get all the details from Brandy coming up tomorrow morning. Enjoy your Monday, and thanks so much for listening to the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast.